Welcome, everybody. How are you doing? It is February 12th, 2025, and this is RambleCast. My name is Cody Toombs. I'm your host, and with me I have Corbin Davenport.
Hello.
And, oh boy, I don't know. This week is kind of like last week, but with all the things that sucked about last week continuing into this week, and new things added to it, because that's just the way the game goes.
Or never ending.
Yeah,
Okay.
seemingly.
Now, back to draft.
Whoa. Okay, hold on. I'm not sure everything is okay on my side, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear you, kind of, but you're roboting a lot, but I don't think it's you, because my YouTube stream coming in on the dashboard just started showing me a spinner. Are you hearing me okay?
You're but again, I don't know if that's me.
I don't know. It's saying stream is healthy. All right. Whatever it is, I think it just passed. Seems like stuff's kind of working again. Except it just said that lost connection to you in the Google Meet session, and then it immediately reconnected and showed you again. So, okay. I don't know what's going on, but
that might have been because I was running speed test, but my speed test confirmed that I have like 800 down right now and like 30 up, so I should be okay.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's not you, because it was things acting weird that definitely were not just Google Meet. This was other stuff.
It's not me because I'm perfect. I've never had technical issues. It didn't happen last week at all.
Fair enough. Okay, we're gonna struggle through this and hope everything is okay, which, you know, that nothing has ever gone wrong in history by doing exactly that.
Sorry, I just clicked the article for the first topic, and in the sidebar is something that says Ninja's new ice cream machine.
Yeah, I saw that headline and I didn't look into it, but I also I don't think I had it in me to look into it.
I guess good for him if he can still get marketing deals. I don't think I've heard him
wait,
2 years.
Is this the Ninja the streamer, or is this Ninja
oh, is it not?
Ninja just announced new ice cream, the Ninja Swirl.
I assume this was the streamer doing a collab of some sort. Oh, okay. I think I also forgot the Ninja company existed. Okay.
Yep. Okay. So good. This has nothing to do with the streamer.
I immediately assumed the worst and thought this was a streamer collab.
Okay, but wait, why are they covering this? This is in tech. Why is this in tech? This doesn't belong
they
here.
had to find something today that wasn't like the government burning.
Yeah, fair enough.
Distract from the whores with your ice cream. Honestly, I could use an I was about to say I could use an ice cream machine. If I had this in my apartment, I would instantly gain like 30 pounds. So that's probably a good idea. I would be relying on it heavily for support. That's probably a good thing.
Your support ice cream machine.
My emotional support ice cream machine. And during these live streams, I'd be like, "Oh, that's not while you're talking about something. I'm gonna walk off and make ice cream and come back like 2 or 3 times during the RambleCast."
I mean, would that really be any different? Never mind. So
it is different because right now when I wander off, I'm getting my vitamin water, which has no calories, just like sweetener stuff, or energy drinks, which are probably killing me.
Yeah,
but it's fine.
Oh, don't worry. Aspartame has absolutely no negative effects. We're sure of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, wow, this has gone so far off the rails.
Okay, now that we're done with the ice cream machine, a different kind of machine, a camera.
Ooh, wow,
Um,
transitions. Yeah, so Sony, this, I apologize, I don't remember who brought this up last week, but if I scroll up, I'm pretty sure that was just Diablo did. So Diablo spotted this, and it's a pretty simple, straightforward story of Sony doing the smart thing. That, yay, it's good. So they updated their Creators Cloud platform, which I do have a negative note here, but so they've updated this so that you can have images upload directly from your camera to there, and then they will be sent directly over to either Google Drive or Lightroom. I don't think you can do both. I think it's just one or the other. Maybe, I don't know. I could be wrong. But if you happen to be using this, then this streamlines that whole process of bring your camera back, either plug your camera into a computer and download the images from there, or pull the memory card out and plug that into something and copy the images over. Like, that flow is fine, but it's, it's an extra step that a lot of people just, if they can avoid it, they like to not have to do it. And believe me, I get that experience because I've been out the last few days taking pictures of a drone for a review, having to pull the memory card from my camera, having to pull the memory card from the drone, having to pull the memory card from the controller for the drone, all copying all those things off. It's a lot of steps. And it's not that it's slow or awful or anything. It's just, if I could avoid it, I'd like to. And this is something that you and I have talked about many times because we really want a camera that runs Android. In part, because we'd like to be able to install something like Drive or Dropbox or whatever. And basically, when we walk back in the door, we just want to like hit a button or turn the camera on or whatever and have it start uploading all those images somewhere.
And if it's Android, then like also we're not waiting for Sony or whoever to build integrations like this. It's just like, did someone make an app for this at some point? Great. Like, I could, if one day I'm like, I'm finally like, I can't take Adobe anymore, then like I could swap that app out for like, I forget, like sync thing, whatever that like open source like wireless file transfer thing is. Like, you put whatever you want on there, Google Photos, OneDrive, whatever. Now, this article, it sounds like, so this says images are first uploaded to Sony's Creators Cloud storage directly before being sent to Google Drive or Lightroom. Does that part happen on a connected phone or the camera itself?
Okay, so I believe they are, like, the camera itself has Wi-Fi, so it has the ability to do that upload. And as far as I can tell, I think that's what happens. It's uploading from the camera to your Creators Cloud storage. That is a Sony service.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I hope it would be, because otherwise it's just adding an additional step. Because once you do like the camera to phone transfer, then you can just on your phone hit the share button to the Lightroom app or whatever. Which I do a lot on my phone. Like, I take a couple pictures and then hit share into Lightroom, and then it'll all sync up, and then I go over my computer and edit them.
Right. I will say, in fairness, though, I wouldn't mind it if the phone has to act as a go-between, as long as it is a very streamlined process. I don't like that for a few obvious reasons, but I could see why that would also be good in a few other scenarios. It really depends on what your use cases are like. So, thinking about it in the terms that you and I probably do most of the time, where we go take some pictures, come back home, and we just don't want to mess around with pulling memory cards, I could see like turn on camera, probably plug it in so it can charge, but turn on the camera, plug in phone, pop open an app and just hit a button to like sync all photos or something. If that's the experience, yay, that totally makes sense. I wouldn't mind if that's the flow. But then I think about if I were, let's say, more like a traveling photographer or a YouTuber or something like that, where I take a bunch of stuff on my camera and then I'm going to be going back to a hotel room or something to stay for the night. Do I want to enter Wi-Fi credentials on my camera? Like, that's awful. I could see why you want the phone to act as a go-between in that scenario. And, if you don't have Wi-Fi at all, then you really almost kind of need the phone to act as a go-between. I guess you could Wi-Fi hotspot on your phone, but, all the different scenarios that exist, I can see why you might want the phone for some of them. I can see other times where it's like, I don't want to have to mess with my phone or have it around or waste the battery life. Having data transfer from one thing to another and then immediately off of that to another thing. And, the round trips that exist aren't great if you always have to use a phone. So I could see arguments for both. But the way this reads, I think you can just upload straight from camera to service.
Yeah, I clicked the press release that was linked in the Verge article, and it says, poop, I scrolled too much. Based on feedback from the creative community, this latest update simplifies workflows by enabling direct uploads from select Sony cameras to Google Drive or Adobe Lightroom, empowering creators to seamlessly integrate their work into widely used editing and storage solutions.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like physical cameras straight to service, because otherwise, like, they could do this for every camera they've ever done. If it they have, like, you connect your camera to the Sony app on the phone, and then you just click one more button and it sends it to whatever other app you have installed. Yeah, to be fair, a lot of older cameras they kind of have abandoned somewhat. So
yes,
so
yeah, I have the Stinky Imaging Edge mobile app that is sad, and I think I've only used like 3 times because every time I use it, it's really annoying.
Yeah, it is not the greatest experience. That being said, it is actually still pretty necessary and useful for remote shooting.
Yeah, that's the only time I've ever used it, is like if for some reason I need like a remote shutter.
Yeah.
Which I don't do that very often, because if my phone is okay enough, I can just set up my phone and then do remote shutter on my Apple Watch. So the times I'm using that is limited to like when I need actual camera pictures, which is not that often. Hello to Diablo in the chat, and also David and Austin showing up. Hello.
Hey guys, how you doing?
So yeah, kind of neat. I still want my Sony Android camera though. I would upgrade. I was talking again about my camera a couple days ago, and I still have the same Sony Alpha I bought in like 2017. It's fine. I'm using it for exactly the same purposes I was using it for when I bought it, which is taking pictures of small electronics.
On a red bench.
Yes. Sometimes. And yeah, so like I still don't have a need to upgrade it, but if there was an Android one, I would probably buy it or start saving up for it, because it'd probably be expensive. Because I would like Android, and also the next time I upgrade, by default I get to switch from micro USB to USB-C, which would be nice.
Oh, it is a blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm on an A7 III, which is full frame camera, which is nice. I'm still using mostly APS-C lenses though, so you know, it is what it is. My
Here's my little guy.
Yep. My battery life is because I get to use those much larger batteries. My battery life is actually really good on the camera. Corbin, on the other hand, I feel like you probably have to carry around like a whole separate USB battery just to keep that thing going.
I don't know because I don't because I don't go anywhere with this.
Fair.
So I never have the situation where my battery dies like away from somewhere. I just plug it back in. But yeah, like if I was gonna take this on I think I did take this on one trip, which was a Qualcomm AI event I went to. But I was actively using the camera for maybe like an hour, so it didn't really drain the battery much.
Yeah.
Again, that was just taking photos. I'm not like video recording with this really. So
yeah, and I'm doing some video, but I'm about to do a lot more. So yeah. Anyway,
like before that trip, I was like, I might need a bigger SD card in case I take a lot of pictures. So that was like the first time in 5 years I took the SD card out of the camera.
And it just
and I was like,
in.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, I still have a little 16 gig one in here. And now SD cards are like, yeah, you can get a terabyte for like $20.
That sounds like an Amazon price. Don't buy from Amazon.
Yeah, so now I did get a little 128 gig card before I left for that, so that's in there now. But yeah, so I would still like an Android Sony camera, please. Sony, get on that. Make the Xperia camera, Sony. You could like, and I think it should also have all the funny like other Xperia stuff, like a headphone jack and no Android updates.
So okay. It's funny you mentioned that, but I want to come back to that in just a moment. I want to add, yes, please. I desperately still want an Android camera because it's not just about being able to put on apps for like doing cloud backup. I also want apps to control the camera itself. Look, there are features in cameras that are perfectly good and do some nice automation, but I would love to have, let's say, an app that can just
put Tasker on there. Oh, now you're cooking.
I mean, that's
Tasker
fine.
Or something like it.
I'd be into that. Hey, Garson, how's it going? So, well, I want something that could do, let's say, automatic rack focusing. I want something that could just automate so many different steps, things that the camera can kind of do but isn't good at or isn't great at. I want those kinds of things automated through an Android app that just can be written to be smarter. I'd also love to have, let's say remote control over the camera apps in some way, like if they added sort of like an interface to control any given app. Well,
I mean, you'd also have like normal Bluetooth too, so you could do like remote stuff through that.
There's so many things that once you can install an app onto the camera that can control the actual camera functions, oh man, that changes the game so much, and I would kill for that. So yeah, I'm
David said instead of the next camera, we'll have chatbot built in. Okay, so I was actually thinking like, I don't know if this necessarily needs to happen on the camera, but like if it was an Android camera, it would be kind of cool if it was using like little Gemini Nano to try auto tagging pictures before you went and transferred it off to something else. Try to find text in the image or something else. Also, if it's Android, would have like GPS coordinates in the pictures and stuff. There's a lot of smartphone stuff we take for granted that then when I go to my Sony camera and I take a picture, I'm like, shit, I don't know where I took this picture. Except I do know because it's always in my apartment. because I don't take anywhere. But
See, and what you just said, you also are dancing right up to another subject, which was Sony doesn't really have to develop all of the smartest features that are things that right now, like everyone talks up, let's just say the pixels, because Google has done crazy, amazing processing stuff. But the fact of the matter is, most of that is just, it's just algorithmically controlled photos that any other camera could do. I mean,
like
Google's
it would have like the normal camera app that functions like the camera, but you could also sideload like Google Camera. Ooh, that'd be cool.
Sure. Or let's say
when you want it.
Let's say a company dedicates itself to just actually making a paid app that does this and maybe even better stuff. I mean, look, Google does a good job. I think no one's really saying otherwise. But imagine if a company dedicates itself to doing this, like similar and better stuff, possibly, designed for DSLR level cameras. Imagine that kind of experience. I wouldn't question for a second that a company could make really good money on a project like that, and I'd be all for it. So yeah, yes, please. This wasn't meant to be a rant. We need Android cameras again, but please, Sony especially, but really almost anyone, as long as you make a really good high-end camera, please do an Android version.
I could be swayed if another like actual camera maker with a lens ecosystem does this. I can sell my Sony. I'm not that tied to it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I would anyway if I got a new camera, but
yeah.
I'd have to sell my one additional lens as well.
Yeah, I got a few more than that, but yeah, I'd be perfectly content to start swapping out different things if I could go over to a ecosystem. The one caveat I will throw in, because I feel like whoever does this, and if it works, I feel like this is going to be, and I'm going to pull kind of a weird example of this, but it's going to be like, I think it was Kia, or no, who was it that was the first company to have Android Auto? No, I don't remember. Anyway, I feel like it's going to be sort of like that, where one company is going to break down and finally say, okay, we've heard from customers, you really want smart stuff in the camera, and they'll do it. And I think it's only going to be like another, say, 18 months, maybe 2 years. And all of a sudden, if it's even that long, and all of a sudden it's going to be Sony, Canon, Nikon, Fuji, like every company is going to be like, oh, no, okay, fine, we'll do it too. And yeah, so I'm not sure you even need to sell and switch systems. You might just have to wait like anywhere from 6 to 18 months, and then the new thing will come out, and it's like, okay, now we can all go do our own thing in whatever ecosystem we still use. So this is all to say, Sony, everyone knows you're the tech forward company. Please just do it.
Hurry up. Yeah.
You already have a division making Sony Xperia, or not Xperia, but they are Xperia phones, and they're already doing weird, crazy things. Like there's one with an HDMI port, and it's HDMI in, so that you can use your phone as a monitor, a camera monitor. There's they've got multiple phones that are just objectively the actual best sensors and glass that any phone has. Now, granted, their software experience could use a lot of improvement, and that's why they keep getting absolutely dogpiled in reviews. Except when real photographers get it and know what they're doing, then they love the phone. And I mean, come on. You've already got this. It's so close. It's like watching somebody put together a puzzle and they've decided, I'm going to put together the left side of the puzzle over here and the right side of the puzzle over there, and I'm just never going to put the two together. Like, they're both done. All you have to do is slide it over and link them up. Anyway.
Yeah, we need the Xperia camera phone, and we also need the Xperia people to make a new PlayStation phone, which would make me switch away from iPhone.
Yeah.
Please and thank you. Speaking of Android phones, Apple TV, it finally has an Android app. I don't know what happened here. Like, Apple was the only. Apple wanted to be a streaming service, and then was still kind of in the classic Apple mode of like, we don't really want to build apps for other platforms. It's icky. So weirdly, they did. I think from day one they had a Android TV / Google TV app, but there was not one for phones and tablets. They were telling people to just watch it through the web browser, which was very silly. But now they have an actual app on the Play Store. It supports offline downloads, watch lists. It supports MLS Season Pass with Google Play billing. I believe you can watch your purchased movies and shows. So maybe if you have, like, Apple TV, because Apple can't do branding, I guess, as well as Google. Apple TV is like connected to the same backend system as like how iTunes purchases were. So like if you bought movies and shows on iTunes or whatever, it shows up here. So before this, you had to do it in the web browser or set up movies everywhere, but that only works for movies. So new option if you have like a bunch of movies and shows in an old iTunes account. Also, we didn't put this in the show notes, but Apple did, I believe yesterday, finally switch on support for migrating purchases between Apple accounts if you're in the US and a couple other countries. So, now it's easier for you to move things around and also watch purchases on Android devices. So that's nice. Also, the Verge article mentions that it has picture-in-picture support and even supports like foldable phones. So appears to be a pretty good app. It's always funny how Apple is like allergic to making apps for other platforms, but in the last few years when they do it, the results are pretty good. Like when Apple, famously iTunes for Windows was like the worst piece of software ever created. But more recently, when they made new separate music and movie apps for Windows, they are using like the native Windows UI toolkit. And from what I understand, they work well. And even Microsoft isn't building native Windows apps. So that's pretty good. So yeah, that's nice.
I'm reluctant to. I hate when people get very predictive based on sort of unrelated or flimsy evidence, but the mere fact that it works and they developed like an actual proper interface for foldable phones, dude, that feels more convincing to me than almost anything else that's been said, that Apple's probably working on a foldable phone that they're probably not too far from releasing. And I know that's a stretch. Like I said, I hate that kind of predictive sort of thing, but the fact that Apple cared about building a foldable interface kind of says, yeah, foldable interface or folding support is, or sorry, a foldable phone is coming on their side and they want their apps to support it.
But those folding phones wouldn't be running Android.
No, but I imagine this app is also probably built on a code base that's something that they already are built on. It very likely a lot of this is probably written in I'll guess C or possibly rust, I guess, maybe. You know, the things that obviously need to be built for lower level the portions. The interface, less so, but, you know, there are things that would benefit from building in that support at the lower levels.
I don't know. I think I gotta go Occam's razor on this one. I think like they just don't have a lot of Apple TV users, and it helps your service if the app doesn't suck. So
yeah, but they don't have to make it good for phones, or at least not folding phones.
Also, Apple has like, at least, I don't know if they would necessarily be dedicated engineers, but they have some engineers for Android apps, and those guys aren't doing much. So I would hope they were allowed to like kind of just go wild and actually build everything here, because Apple only has like a handful of Android apps.
Yeah, there is always that possibility that somebody there is like, you know what? No one told me to do this, but I'm going to do it. I will grant that, and I considered that. I was going to say that is the other possibility, but yeah, I wouldn't. I feel like this is a strong indicator still, but yeah, it is certainly possible that they just have somebody like. Damn, I was trying to think of his name and it's just not coming to me, but oh, was it Franco Francisco? Or Francisco?
I think so.
Yeah,
the Twitter app dev. Yeah.
He wrote, I want to say Falcon? I think it was Falcon.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, he went to work at Twitter and was like, man, now that I'm working here, their Android app sucks more than I thought it did. And so he spent like 2 years working there. Still got shockingly little accomplished, because they were terrible to him, and he ended up leaving. But yeah.
Diablo said, I've seen more people were like, I wish Apple made a folding device. Yeah, if Apple makes a folding phone, I think I would go broke just like opening the store page for it to see how much it like they charge you to look at the store page. Or it's like all those like enterprise products where you go to the product page and the price is like contact a representative. It's like, no, we're not gonna. If you're wondering how much it costs, the answer is too much for you.
Look, they gave us a price for the Vision Pro, and I don't think they're gonna make a folding phone that costs more than the Vision Pro. I will stake on that.
Maybe.
I think the Vision Pro is all. And look, if they really want to be picky about price, or you know, if we want to talk about Apple's pricing, look, they've sold desktop computers that cost $80,000 or more. So yeah.
The folding phone will be affordable. It's the wheels for the folding phone that'll really get you.
Mm-hmm.
Diablos also said Apple made or Apple's better than Google developing Android apps. I mean, that's also how that's how like Microsoft has been. Like Microsoft makes better apps on Mac OS than they do Windows. It's like not even close. Word for Mac's pretty nice. Word for Windows, ew, gross.
Yeah. Well, and for what it's worth, Microsoft's Android apps are better than anything they ever made for Windows Phone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not even in question. Like, there were several things that were compared back when Windows Phone was still somewhat active. And yes, the experiences on Windows Phone were kind of mediocre, if not outright bad, where they were making apps for Android, and in many cases they were making apps for Android that they just didn't bother making for Windows Phone, even in cases where Windows Phone would have supported it. And the same thing people say about, hey, why is Google doing better versions of iOS apps than they are their own Android apps? This seems to be a thing all the companies do. The moment that they decide, hey, we're going to make an app for another platform, let's do it a little too good.
Yeah, it's like these guys already bought the phone we make. We're not gonna work too hard.
Yeah,
we have a captive audience here. It's like Also, speaking of Windows Phone, I did get this in the mail. Wow, that screen is not showing up on the webcam whatsoever. Wow. Okay. No. Oh, there's the phone. It popped up. I did get a HTC. I believe this is the HTC Touch 2 on eBay for like $50.
It's so teensy.
It's very small, and also it appears to be a New Zealand model because there's a New Zealand carrier on the boot screen, and the default homepage is some New Zealand domain. I haven't tried putting in like a US SIM card or anything because I don't really have like another line to put in this.
I'm not even sure it would work.
Yeah, I this is probably like, I mean, even if it was like a US model, this might just be like 3G only, and all those towers are gone.
Yeah, the Touch, yeah. I'm like 80% sure that was 3G only and may have had HSPA.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, I didn't buy it for that purpose. I bought it because I wanted to mess around with Windows Phone because I never used Windows.
Well, you're messing around with Windows Mobile,
right? Windows Mobile. Yeah. Yeah, the most I use is Windows 10 Mobile, which I liked at the time. I actually used it as my main phone for a little while. My Lumia, I think it's a Lumia 550. It's over there. Actually, is it? No, I put it in another drawer. Okay. Which I actually liked at the time, and that was like in the brief moment where Windows Mobile went back to Windows Mobile. Windows Mobile 10 actually had like popular apps. Like there was a Twitter app, there was an Instagram app. So I used it during that period, and I thought it was pretty good. I had a budget phone, so it was a budget. It was normal cheap phone stuff. The camera was pretty bad, but I liked it. But I've never used like pre-Windows Phone, Windows Mobile. So I'm doing. I'll make some like content out of it. But yeah, it is very tiny. And the stylus is hilariously tiny. Look at this.
Mm-hmm.
This is like I feel like a giant writing on my little. It's very silly. And I did get. It doesn't seem like there. I tried installing the desktop app for this in a Parallels VM, and it didn't work. I think it's because it needs drivers that don't work on ARM. So I got a Windows XP VM set up on my Mac Mini back there, and I got ActiveSync on there. Works fine. I got an FTP client on here, so I can just transfer apps with that instead of using the Windows XP VM every time. I got Opera Mini on here because I wrote that article, and Opera Mini on here does still work. It also has Opera Mobile and IE, and I was doing some web dev on that. So yeah, I'll have content about this eventually. I don't know what. I haven't used it enough. Anyway, now that I've derailed.
I don't think there was much left on the Apple TV rail anyway.
Yeah.
But so hey, if you're the kind of person who is an Apple TV subscriber or Apple TV Plus subscriber, or I guess if you just buy
if you bought things on iTunes like 10 years ago, you can now watch it on your.
Yeah, why not?
Definitely me. I have a very old like iTunes account from when I was like 12 that definitely has some movies and shows on it, but I lost the password to that a long time ago, and I don't know where it went.
So I do wonder, at first, how much would Steve Jobs absolutely lose his mind if he knew that this happened? Because I feel like this is the sort of thing that would have been a step too far for him. And two, I wonder what kind of pressure the Apple TV team is under to raise revenue, because I feel like that's why this had to have happened. Mm-hmm. Anyone who follows Apple news closely enough, that Apple has, for the last really close to a decade, they've been trying to ramp up their service revenues. That's been such a big push. They're not trying to necessarily like turn to a services company over a hardware company. They're still definitely a hardware company, but they're trying to shift so that services make up a pretty substantial percentage of what their business model is. And I get it. That's a smart play. But yeah, it kind of leaves the question rolling, like how much of a focus was on this? How much did they like sit back and go, oh, we don't need to do it. We don't need to do it. We don't need to do it. And then one day it's like, yeah, our service revenue is not up high enough, or we want to get another stock bump by doing this. So make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, like, I get the argument for having some services that are only available on your own devices. Like, obviously, like all the iCloud and like Apple Fitness stuff, like that's all still needs their hardware. But this was always the one where I was like, this doesn't make sense. Like, it's just video. This is just a video platform. Like, this should have been on everything day one.
Yeah, just
especially, like yeah, Apple Music. Yeah, it took forever. That does have an Android app, and like especially when Apple TV got to the point where like carriers were starting to like sell it in bundles and stuff. It's like this needs to be on everything. You're just being silly at this point.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would love if Apple like went a little bit harder into services, if nothing else, than to be an upsell for their own hardware. I wrote this editorial. I think it was my last article at XDA, and I should just write it again because I think it's still true. Is Apple needs to bring back Safari for Windows, because all web browsers now suck. And Safari is also not that good. I don't like I don't use Safari because Apple is so weird about extensions. So I can't get a lot of the extensions I want in Safari, and my own don't work in there. That's a separate issue that could be solved. But I think like Safari, considering like all the web browsers on Windows now are Firefox or Chrome or things like Chrome, Safari would be good to have on there for everyone who uses like an iPhone with a Windows PC. And even if they don't, Apple does a lot of advertising just for Safari. So like that should just be on Windows as like an upsell to the rest of the ecosystem. Like, hey guys, check out our web browser. See how nice it is? Don't you, want an iPhone or a Mac and it syncs with all those things? Even if it doesn't, just have it. Like they already have like iCloud for Windows, because there's a bunch of people who have like, their iPhones with iCloud hooked up and they need those files on their Windows computer too.
Yeah, I suppose.
So I think that's one of the things Apple I think should do. That would be a very easy like Trojan horse for like their ecosystem, is to get people in with Safari. There's a couple other things they have that I think could be useful on other platforms that wouldn't like really cannibalize Mac or iPhone sales at all. But
at this stage, I almost think it would be hard to cannibalize the hardware sales, because man, the hardware is that I hate saying it like this, but the hardware has kind of basically been selling itself. They
well, like, I don't
right now.
I don't expect like an iMessage app for Android ever. Like that, I think I don't think that's happening unless it's like $20 a month. I could see that happening. It's like, oh, you're not buying an iPhone and you still want iMessage? Well, how would you like to pay like the equivalent monthly payments of an iPhone?
I don't know. I don't know. There's a part of me that thinks they wouldn't, like, for lock-in value, they would never want to do it the way you just described, because even at $20 a month just for messaging, they'd be sitting there going, but we could make so much more if we could get them on an iPhone just by all the other services they'll sign up to. And we can
and all the apps they buy on iPhone.
Yeah, all
we
the
get 30% off.
And yeah, the long list of all the other money they can make, I could see I could see them saying, we're just not going to do iMessage even then. Then there's another part of me that's like, yeah, but Apple might also just. I think there are more scenarios, and not just government oversight, but I think there are other scenarios where Apple might finally say, you know what? No, we're putting iMessage out for everyone. And I think most of those are going to come down to one, and I've said this before, if their sales ever really plummet, like if people start actually shifting away from iPhones for whatever reason, I think Apple will want to try to get a lock-in via iMessage in whatever way they can, even if it doesn't involve their own hardware. I think there's also possibly a scenario where if they can come up with other ways to monetize iMessage, not just charging a monthly subscription or something, but if they saw, let's say, like an opportunity to shove Apple Pay through that and get everyone using Apple Pay no matter what, I could almost kind of see them doing that.
Yeah, I mean, Apple Pay is an iMessage, but I don't know how frequently it's used.
Yeah, and you can't do that with Android, at least not yet. And I think that's where they would be like, yeah, we're still not going to do it. Okay, anyway.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I also on the iMessage thing. Yeah, I think that, like, iMessage is just the BBM of this decade. And BBM had the thing where BlackBerry sales started to plummet, but they did wait way too long to start opening up BBM to other platforms. And so it still failed.
Yeah.
So yeah, if they don't wait too long. Hello, Kirby.
Hey, Kirby.
She said teenagers' entire social life here is built on blue bubbles. I have 3 teenagers. I know. Yeah. I mean, they could do it. Okay. Jarring shift in tone. OpenAI news. So OpenAI. I'll be honest. My job is writing about technology, so I have to keep up with a lot of this stuff. I don't write about AI specifically a lot, but like I'm still like far more aware of it than like a normal person, and I don't really know what OpenAI has been like, how all their AI stuff has been working, because they've been releasing a lot of updates and releasing a lot of models, and their naming scheme for models doesn't really make sense. And some of them work very differently than others, and some of them are behind the paid subscription plan, some are not. So all this is really complicated. So now the OpenAI CEO said in like a really long Twitter post that they're changing their roadmap, and their goal is to like heavily simplify everything. So they said that a GPT 4.5 model is on the way. I think he said in a reply that it's going to be like weeks away. And that will be their last AI model that doesn't do chain of thought. So there's all these fancy new AI models like OpenAI's. I think their O1 and O3 models are like this, and also DeepSeek is like this, where they separate prompts into like a bunch of different steps and then do those steps individually, and that reduces failures and hallucinations and all that fun stuff. So that's kind of the way the industry is going, and I guess they've now figured out that like they can do that without every query costing a lot of money. So it sounds like they're kind of going to shift entirely to that kind of structure. So GPT 4.5 is coming out soon. That'll be the last one that doesn't work like that. And then the next thing will be a GPT-5 AI model, which will, work like the chain of thought thing. And they say that GPT-5 will basically like encompass everything. So they're not going to have a bunch of like individual models that are suited for specific tasks. It's just going to be all in one thing. Now it wasn't clear to me reading this if like the AI model will just like I don't know if it will contain like a bunch of sub models and then do this entirely within itself, or like if I type into something in ChatGPT, is the front end of ChatGPT going to read that and then decide on its own which model to send the query to? That part's not really clear yet, but they say that GPT-5 should basically just work kind of like their O3 model does right now. So the general plan is like at some point they will not have a drop-down menu in ChatGPT with like 4 options that all have like names that don't explain what they do. So that sounds good to me because this stuff is annoying to keep up with. It just depends on, you know, the implementation is like, would there be use cases where it doesn't detect like how to properly do a task and I'll have to like manually choose, no, use this model for this one. That kind of stuff isn't super clear yet, but it sounds like the GPT-5 is a while off, so not you know, makes sense. There's not a lot of details about that yet. And Diablo said, yes, please make it simple. Even Gemini is confusing. Yeah, when I go to Gemini, it has, I think it's just 2 options. Oh no, there's 4.
Well, I think 2 of them were the just added experimental things, aren't they?
When I click the menu, I get 2.0 Flash, 2.0 Flash Thinking Experimental, 2.0 Flash Thinking Experimental with apps, which adds YouTube Maps and search, and then 1.5 Flash, which is the previous version.
Right. So yeah, 2 of them are experimental, which okay, you could argue whether or not that counts, but you know, in my opinion,
this is marginally more descriptive than O1 and O3 and GPT 4.0 mini, like
most people don't understand any of that stuff, and
I don't understand.
You have to be an AI nerd to follow that stuff, and I don't say that as like a negative thing, but you know, like you have to actually be actively following what these things are in order to understand what kind of sacrifices you're making and the cost and everything else to determine, is this even, do I want to pick this thing from a drop down box? How much impact does that have? So there's no denying they're right, and this was a bad experience.
And this sounds like the end game to the other kind of transition we've seen over the past like 6 to 8 months, where there used to be different AI models for like chat and image detection and video, and kind of last year after the initial like ChatGPT hype wave died down, that's been kind of the main transition, is like, okay, we need to make these multi-model AI models that can just handle everything as input and output in different formats. So it makes sense that now that we've got past that point, we can start consolidating all the specialized models. But yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what happens there. And obviously, we're still going to have like different AI models in terms of size, because there's always going to be the ones that need to run on like a phone and the ones that like it's okay if they need a server to run. So
yeah. So I mean, the other kind of read I get on this is I think it's only a matter of time before somebody notices that this is also paying users more money, because I think this quickly becomes an excuse of saying, oh, well, our algorithm detected that you asked this, therefore it sent it to a higher intelligence version, and that higher intelligence version costs more, and you don't get to pick which one answers you. You're just going to get whatever you pay for, or, you know, I guess on a per usage basis, they're going to kind of charge you on the usages. Like, in some way, shape, or form, they basically figured out the shortcut to saying, well, you know, we didn't say you have to pay more. Our model figured that out. And, you know, are you really going to tell us that the model got it wrong? So,
yeah, that's my main question is like, is the decision making happening like in the model, and can it properly handle that, or is there just like an additional step that can be overridden if needed? Yeah, I'll have to see what happens. And they did mention that like whenever the GPT-5 rollout happens, that free accounts would get I think what he called the like standard intelligence, and then plus subscribers would get one that was smarter, and then pro subscribers, which is like the $200 a month one, would get like the super smart big brain one. So that would be the first. That would be kind of interesting because the free account have always kind of like lagged, like one like it's been on like a different architecture. I think the free accounts still use GPT 3.5 or one of the many ones, but it sounds like they would have like basically the same one. It would just be a little bit more stupid, which should be cool.
Yeah, if you're using it. Yeah. I mean, this is all obviously kind of a good change, but at the same time, sorry, I don't trust him a whole lot. That's really what it comes down to, is I don't have a ton of trust in what they're setting up for. So I'm kind of waiting to see the other shoe drop.
My Gemini usage is still almost entirely how do I change this code? Because I know immediately if it gave me a bad answer or not when I run it. And also like, how do can you write this like command line command for me? I don't know all of the like 300 flag options in FFmpeg. It's great for those, but not so much for like anything in my actual job.
Yeah.
Except writing alt text, it is very good for that. But I use the one of the GPT models for that. Okay, so jarring shift in tone again. No, Google is not scanning all the images on your Android phone. This is a thing that was going around on my Blue Sky timeline and also on Mastodon. Is someone found an app called Android System Safety Core Beta updating on their phones, and they read the description and they thought that this was an app that was scanning every picture on their phone and sending it to Google. No. So what's happening is Google Messages and possibly other apps, I'm not clear, have Google Messages specifically has a feature that rolled out last year where it tries to identify and blur images that might be nude pics as a safety measure. So you don't get unsolicited dick pics. No one wants that. And especially, yeah. So basically, that feature is part of this. It's powered by this Android System Safety Core. It's just like a modular component that is now updating through the Play Store. And this way, it's a service that Google Messages can use. I'm not sure if other Google apps are using it yet, but yeah, it's a component for scanning images that are sent to you, and importantly, it's running on device. So no, your images are not like pictures texted to you are not uploaded to Google. Unless you have that set up through Google Photos or something. I don't know, but not as part of this. So you can uninstall it if that sounds sketchy to you still, but it's not really a thing you need to worry about. This is very similar to the panic I think I wrote about a couple weeks ago, where people found a feature in iOS that like tries to process images you take as like a simplified model and then sends that model to Apple to try to identify landmarks. which does actually involve sending like some data about the picture to Apple, but it's not the picture itself. And there was a brief wave of articles that were like, Apple's, every picture you take is being sent to Apple for AI processing. No, that's not what's happening, guys. Calm down. So you don't need to worry about this, but like if you do want to worry about it, you can uninstall it. It's not that big of a deal.
So yeah, and this same conversation comes up every few years anyway. It obviously really kicked off back in, I want to say it was 2021 when, or maybe it was 2020. It was 2020. Actually, maybe 2019. Whatever. Anyway, Apple announced that they were going to start scanning for CSAM. Right. If you don't know what CSAM is, let's just say inappropriate photos of children. Yes. Yeah, that's the politest language that I have for it. Anyway, so, yeah, and the thing is that system was pretty limited in how it was supposed to work. Apple did a lot of trying to explain like the technicalities of how it had set it up so that they never actually have the photos. They never look at the photos. They have ways of detecting them without themselves having even known about them. They were also only detecting known photos and not newly created individual photos. So yeah, the list of all of the complicated details was crazy, but the whole thing, or the whole point of it was, no, they weren't scanning the photos that land on your phone. They were actually, rather, they weren't reporting everything back to Apple. And even when they did report anything back to Apple, it was done in a way that encrypts even who sent it. It protects what the photos are. It's technically also protecting Apple from possessing illegal content, etc., etc. It's this very long and drawn out thing. And for as much as all of that was talked about, it's also worth noting that that ended up being killed. Their CSAM scanning actually just doesn't exist anymore. They removed it. But yeah, and notably, Google has been doing this for years. Like Google Photos actually does the same scanning, except they're more upfront about it. And by upfront,
because they have the picture because you uploaded it
yeah,
to their service.
Yeah, they're not trying to be sneaky or creating some crazy technology to say, "Oh no, we'll never see it. We don't know that." No, they just, Google Photos just straight up has a system on server for scanning for this stuff. It's not happening on your phone. It's not doing any sneaky stuff to try to limit them catching something. No, they're just straight up scanning for it. It's fine. Like it's weird people tried to make some of the issues that they did about that. Nevertheless, yeah, Apple doesn't really want to see your photos that much. And would they want to do AI training off of them? Of course they would. But are they, part of Apple's whole shtick is, we swear we don't steal your user data, which they do, but...
Yeah, Apple has definitely gotten loose on its morals in the countries where it would like block them from selling phones, right? Like every iPhone sold in China can be decrypted by the Chinese government. They'll probably do it here if Trump passes a law that says you have to do that. I think they would do that here.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have
but
to.
Well,
no, they have to.
Apple turns into like an independent enclave that can't sell phones here.
I mean, they could always relocate or just not sell to the U.S.
Yeah.
But no, they want that good money, at least
Yeah.
for as much longer as the U.S. dollar is worth anything.
Yeah, so I think it's important to like when Apple or Google or whoever does actually fuck up, that we need to report about that and spread awareness of that. But when they implement these features in a way that is like the most private they possibly can, and the same freak out happens, I think that's not useful. That's getting into like a boy who cried werewolf situation. Um, like I was reading a lot about Apple's implementation of the landmark thing, and I was like, this is like many times more work than it would have been to upload the pictures to a server and figure out, is this a picture of the Eiffel Tower?
Yeah.
So like it seems like there was a lot of thought that went into that feature, but it still got the same freak out as like, oh my god, Apple's sending your pictures of the Eiffel Tower to a server somewhere. And also there was the whole thing about that where it's like your iPhone already like pings some server to figure out where this picture was taken. Like it sends the GPS coordinates to somewhere to look up like the location name or whatever. So it's like it's already doing this. Anyway, that's not important. Like just this is not a thing you need to be worried about. There's a lot of things we all need to be worried about right now. This is not one of them. You can calm down about this specific thing. I think that's always a good PSA to have. It's like you don't need to worry about this one. So don't freak out.
Yeah, pretty much.
Diablo said Google should just turn off reviews for core system apps. No, they shouldn't, because a lot of those are funny. I remember when I had an Android phone and the like web view would update, and I look at the Play Store listing and it'd be like, this saved my marriage, it bought me a new car. Those were funny.
The ultimate contribution to society is funny reviews about system apps.
Yeah. That's important. I think they should always keep them. So also Google related is we now have a date for Google I/O. It is May 20 to 21st, which I think is when it always is.
Pretty much.
It's always that week. So there you go. We have a dates confirmed. I don't think they have a schedule yet. I saw 9 to 5 Google published when the keynote would be, but I didn't see that on the website. I mean, I know the keynote is always on the first day, but they had like the time and stuff. But I didn't see a full schedule, so we don't know what exactly they're talking about yet. But yeah, we can assume there's going to be a lot of AI stuff. They're going to talk about Android 16, definitely. Maybe Wear OS and Google TV / Android TV. Don't know. They did last year. They did Wear OS 5, so it's possible. But
if anything, I'd say that probably means we won't hear about Wear OS again for I'd say another 3 or 4 years.
maybe.
They do seem to little. Anytime something happens with Wear OS or Android TV, it seems like they do their little blitz for that new bit of stuff, and then they're like, yeah, all right, we aren't answering questions again for like 2 to 3, maybe 4 years. They really tune out as soon as they're done with their big blitz on that one big update.
So my biggest wish here is that the keynote is tolerable. Because the keynote last year where they said Gemini, I think like 500 times. And they tried to be cheeky about it, where at the end, Sundar was like, this is how many times we've said AI this event. And it was a lot. And I was like, you said Gemini 5 times more than that, and you know it. And it's like, I'm so sick of this. And the entire thing was like their bad branding. So like they're talking about like Gemini and gems, and here's our Gemini demo and this other project, and it was the usual Google I/O thing of like half of them are demos of real things, half of them are demos of things that will never be real, some of them were somewhere in the middle. It was awful. I was watching that, and that was for sure the worst live tech event I've ever seen. Now, granted, I did not watch live a lot of the like very cringy Samsung ones,
I was gonna
so I
say.
cannot count. I can't count those. The ones I've watched, which was a lot of Apple ones, a lot of Google ones, a couple Samsung, but like the more recent ones, that was the worst. That hurt to sit through. I wanted to die.
Um,
Um,
really quick, I want to note that when they showed the count of how many times they said it.
I'm gonna get water, but you can keep talking.
Okay. When they showed the count of how many times they said AI, it did work out to, I think it was at least once per minute for the entire duration of the keynote. And bear in mind, they had a whole section of the keynote that was dedicated to Android, where only about half of the Android section actually involved talking about AI. And they still managed to get basically a once per minute average. Which, it looks worse when you put it in that context. Regardless, I just remember last year. Well, last year was particularly bad, but this is a thing that's been going on for a few years. I remember going back to, I think it was 3 years ago or maybe 4. There was this spot where they just sort of stopped having a presentation for a while, and Sundar did like I think it was like a pre-recorded 20. This was probably actually pandemic year or something like that. Anyway, Sundar had something like a 15 or 20 minute recorded segment where he just talked about all the things that Google is doing with AI and machine learning. And I remember part of what he talked about was he wanted it to be or sorry, not he, but one of the things that we're working on is, like, if you ask a question about, let's say, climbing a certain mountain or something, you will of course get answers in English, but they also want the AI to be smart enough to read sites that weren't written in English, but they, the people who wrote them might be particularly intelligent about what you should do and how it should work, and the best way to climb this, or the gear that you need, because obviously not everyone speaks in English, and so on and so forth. I remember that being part of his spiel, and it, logically, some of that sounds interesting and good, but the presentation, the actual delivery of this, was one of the most painfully boring, mind-numbing stretches that I have ever sat through. And I remember just agonizingly listening to every minute of it, going, why? We get it, but you could have, this is like watching. I know different people have different opinions on this, but honestly, it's like watching Dune. Those movies, and I'm talking about the reboots, though honestly all of them this can apply to. Look, take a decent editor and chop a good 30 to 50% out of those things, and you actually have something watchable. Sundar didn't need to go on half as long as he did. They could have chopped so much of it out. It didn't need to have a big long explanation. We didn't need to sit through it. It was awful. And I know it sounds like I'm talking about this as an entertainment thing, and to an extent it kind of is. But it's also just a simple, do you want people to care about this? Then don't do the thing that makes people not want to care about this, which is boring them out of their skulls.
Right. It has to be entertainment, though, because they've already split up the I/O keynotes. They have the first one that is like intended for normal people to watch. Like, I think they put it on the Google YouTube channel. And then there is the one after that where they talk about APIs and stuff, and that's not for normal people to watch.
Yeah,
so
but
the first one does need to be like not so boring you turn it off.
Yeah. And also, look, I'm gonna say, I know I'm about to say something that it's sort of a weak argument to make, but um, it is still a developer conference, and I know it, just like Apple is happy to now announce products at WWDC. There was a time when they were much more like, we're going to announce developer and OS and software stuff only, and yeah, fine. Look, I got no objection to Google launching new products, new hardware, even at I/O. I think that's great. They should do it. But there's a point where if at I/O you're going to announce something that is not a product. Remember, I'm talking at least at that point in history, that was a thing that was not a product in any way, shape, or form. It was not software, it was not hardware, it was not something people could use. It's something that they were announcing, that they were working on, just so they could say, yeah, we're doing stuff on AI. And at that time, this wasn't even a buzzword that moved the stock market. And they spent 15 or 20 minutes talking about this. And I remember at the end of it, myself and everyone I was talking to kept asking, why did they just do that? What purpose did it serve? Literally nothing. It's not interesting that you just said that you do that. Who are you pitching to? And maybe it was a recruitment effort. Maybe it's a thing of them trying to say, hey, we just want people to know we're doing this so that we can get more bright minds to come in here and work on it with us. Okay, but did it have to take 20 minutes? You can accomplish everything you want in 5, maybe 7. And while you're at it, give us some cool animations or a graph or a chart, something to put it into context, so people who don't really care about this can look at it and go, oh, okay, I kind of get what you're going for, because I can see pretty picture with colors. And I'm kind of oversimplifying and being a little snarky about it, but to some extent, like, please, these are presentations. Make it an elevator pitch, not your whole business model.
Yeah, like, last year was rough, and the worst part was they had at least one thing during the live stream that was like AI generated and wrong, and I think The Verge wrote an article about it. I think it was like one of the like AI overview search, and the Google search AI overview is something they showed off at last year's I/O for the first time, and then they rolled it out like 2 weeks later, and that's when we got the wave of like, oh, Google's telling me to put glue on pizza and telling me to cook spaghetti with gasoline, and so like all of that combined was just like awful. That was really bad. Mm-hmm. Like everything that went wrong. The only way it could have got worse is like if someone actually like collapsed on the stage from like heat exhaustion or something. Like it was really bad. So I would hope that they actually tone it down a little bit. I'm pretty sure they won't. If I was going to bet on it, I'd say it's going to be probably about as insufferable. The only advantage being that I think Google has now had a year to like consolidate a lot of their AI stuff. Like I think they already kind of gave up on like the gems thing of like, customizing your Gemini or whatever, and all the garbage in like Gmail and Google Docs and stuff already rolled out. So they might mention it for like 2 minutes, but they're not going to spend 10 minutes on it like they did last year. So I don't know. It might be okay. I just would really like them to not do that, because that was bad. That was really bad. I might honestly, like try to suffer through at least some of it and then write an article to about how bad it was. I almost did that at the time. I almost wrote an article that was like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. But I was so exhausted and I didn't want to put myself through that again to get screenshots and quotes and stuff. So I don't know, maybe I'll do that before this one and be like, a year ago Google really fucked up.
Okay,
that'd be fun.
So it's funny you say that, because while it certainly isn't the same thing, I guess it will be 3 years ago when I/O comes. I did write an article about how Apple has replaced Google as the fun tech giant. And it was based on how WWDC, they actually made good jokes. They had fun with it.
Right. They let Craig be funny.
Yeah. And sometimes it was very, very, very cringy. And other times it was actually pretty funny. And they did good work with it. So, make of that what you will.
That is a core consideration. Google needs a funny person.
Yeah. Well, they have one. Chet Haas
That's true.
Is hilarious.
Well, no, didn't he leave?
No. Well, if he has left, it's happened somewhere in the last year, and I haven't heard about it yet.
Who am I thinking of? There's like a Android executive that left.
I'm hoping you're not talking about Andy.
No. No,
and,
there was someone who went off to go work at a startup or something.
Yeah, no, oh damn it. Oh, I know who you're talking about. I'm blanking on his name.
That guy.
So
like one of the guys.
Notably Chet Haas, not an executive. Yes, Dan Burke.
Thank you.
Sorry, Dave
Burke.
I knew Dave Burke.
Yeah.
No.
I remember Dave.
And Chet Haas is not an executive. He's a he's held a lot of titles. He probably should be promoted to some sort of executive position, but he's not. Regardless, they I don't know. It is actually sad Dave is gone, because he was actually a pretty engaging person on stage. He actually had a good energy for it. Unlike Sundar. Oh my God, Sundar, please, dude.
They gotta let someone else do the keynote. I'm sorry.
I beat up on Sundar so many times that I think for that reason alone I will never be welcome to work there. But
he's just like the most monotone guy, which is fine.
Yeah.
Just not during a presentation. Tim Cook is almost the same way. He's like a little bit more enunciated, but like not by a lot. But also Apple figured this out, and they only put Tim Cook at the very beginning and the very end. He's on screen for like 2 minutes. So it's not that big of a deal.
Every once in a while he will also step on stage, say like a couple quick lines, and then introduce the next person.
Right.
And that's fine. That's great. That's how it should be. Having Sundar do long presentations or long setups, it dries it out. It sucks all the lifeblood out of the event. And sorry Sundar if you're listening, and I know you are, mostly because I'm sure YouTube is absolutely transcribing everything I say. Yeah, sorry, but it's nothing personal. It's professional. You're not the presenter that people want to watch.
I'll go personal because he personally donated $1 million to Trump recently.
Yeah,
so
that is,
I don't have any sympathy left. But yeah, he's not a good presenter. They need to get, just let all the other people, all the other people at Google every time they bring up, pretty much all of them are fine. It's just,
I wouldn't go that
maybe
far.
Okay, yeah. I guess it's just because he's consistently bad, whereas every year they cycle different people in and out.
Yeah, I was gonna say he is consistently bad, and he's consistently there.
Yeah, it's like a repetition bias. Yeah, I'm not gonna. Yeah, it's like getting me to have an opinion about a Marvel movie that came out 3 years ago. I don't remember. Sorry.
Okay, I guess there's that too, but no, it's most of the people that they've had on stage, if they're not good, you just never see them again, and that's fine.
Yeah,
and it happens. You're gonna have people who a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them are developers, and yeah, they're not gonna be really super. Well, some of them aren't gonna be really super engaging people. Some of them are amazingly good at being on stage and talking. Again, Chet Haas and Romingi, these two are, especially when they're together, they're a comedy duo that's great. They know how to talk. There was I believe his name was Fitzpatrick. I'm blanking on his first name. He's great when he's talking to a crowd. There's another guy I can picture, and I have no recollection what his name is. He was great talking to a crowd. Again, Dave Burke, really good at talking to a crowd. I know some people have mixed opinions about Hiroshi Lockheimer, but I don't think he's bad either. And
you know what these companies should do? Who's the guy who was doing all the Surface events at Microsoft and went to just go work for Amazon?
Yeah, I know. People like him. I don't get why. I did not like his style at all.
I think all these companies need to find like someone who is a good presenter, and then they just rent him out like a clown, and they just borrow him for all the events. We have one guy. You know how movie trailers had like the one guy doing the inner world, like just that, but for tech events, just have one guy do all of them.
Right. Okay.
This is my promise as candidate for president of the United States. We'll have one guy who does all the tech events. This is my one policy.
Okay.
Austin said time to bring out Dieter.
Yeah.
I've never watched like the Vergecast or anything where he's like actually talking. I've only ever read what he writes. So
I've seen some of his video reviews. Which, video review is different from live presentation. Right. I would say if he can present live the same way that he does a video review, then he would rank right there at just above middle. And that's not and here's the thing. Video review, you shouldn't necessarily rank as a high energy, bombastic, I'm just going to say unbox therapy a-hole type of character. You should probably come across as more the, even toned type of person. And that's how Dieter came across in those videos. So yay. I can see that. I think he does good for review videos. I would not be super enthusiastic about him bringing the same energy to a presentation, but I also don't think he would do a bad job. I think he would just, I think we could pick better, and we could certainly find worse.
Yes. And now that we finished judging several individuals directly,
well, I'm going to take a moment and judge one more. And by judge, I'm going to say I know that they can't have him anymore, but when Mark Lavoie took the stage and talked about computational photography that they did work on in the Google Pixel phones for, I don't know, what was it, like 15 minutes, and just straight up roasted Samsung and took pot shots at Apple and basically said, ours is good because we do it better. Like, yes, give me more of him. I want more of him. I want to see Google just come out freaking guns blazing like, yo, dog, we're good. I want that guy. Honestly, I really just want that guy back. Like, please bring back Mark Lavoie. But if you can't bring him back, I'm just saying, pay him what it takes. Get him away from Adobe. He can't like it there either. Come on.
This is why we need the one guy. We need one guy. It doesn't matter where he works. Everyone just shares him. We got to figure this out as a nation. Who's gonna do every tech event?
Wait,
it's like Chris Pratt with Hollywood. We have the one guy. He's in everything. We've already figured this out for one industry. We can do it for another.
Okay, so first off, you already know exactly what's going to happen with this, and you know the problem that you're setting up for it. And if this happens, it's your fault, Corbin. I do not ever personally want to see a presentation with Jack Black, because you know that's absolutely who it's going to be. He's in everything. He opens his front door with no plans of being in a movie, and next thing you know, he's voicing the main character to something. That's
God,
what happens.
I would, man. Google I/O presented by Jack Black. That would be sick. That would rock. I'm sorry.
No,
It'd be
no.
great.
Oh my god,
It'd be
I'd
great.
lose my mind. I can
I do.
barely handle the Jack
It
Black
would
I
have
get
to
now.
be. It would have to be in moderation. Like I
Oh
think
god,
like
yes.
10 minutes. 10 minutes nailed it. An hour. That's pushing it.
Can we tone it down to like 3 minutes?
Yeah. So yeah, okay. So now that we've ranked many people based on their ability to do an imaginary presentation, and also I'll say now that we've done that, I'll say like my main wish for IO is less AI, or just not be as annoying about it. And my other wish is actually the opposite. Is in terms of like developer stuff I care about. I would like to see a lot more announcements and talks about their local AI API stuff. Like what's going on with apps using Gemini Nano. And like in Chrome, they're experimenting with the ability for websites and extensions to use a local Gemini model to do stuff, which is really cool because I would like to add like some like like I have an extension called Alt Text Creator, and you right click an image and it sends the image off to OpenAI to write alt text for it and sends it back. Based on what they've been talking about, like I could just do that locally in the browser. That'd be great. But they're still like kind of in the draft phase about that. So I'd like to see stuff there. That's my developer wish. Because I don't make Android apps, I don't really care what they do over there. But
Okay, I'm gonna throw you for a loop because first off, I agree. I want to see less about AI. Look, I know the realities. I accept them.
all right.
They're gonna have some AI stuff. I'm okay.
They're gonna
I'm
have some
fine with
AI stuff. They're gonna have Sundar talking about it. We just got to deal with it.
Yeah. Look, I'm okay with some of it. Go ahead. I know full well they're going to spend probably at least 10 minutes. I think it's probably going to be 15 or 20 talking about Gemini running on their servers. Okay. Look, I can face that. I can accept it. If it's more than say 20 minutes, that's where I think, okay, you're going to lose me. But I'm prepared mentally for a 20-minute spiel on this. Part of that, maybe a little bit more time if they spend it really showing off good work that's being done with local AI models, like you said, and I'm good with that too. If they want to spend say 30 minutes total talking about both of those and hopefully mixing in a few other things, okay, I don't like it, but I'm prepared for it. Any more than about 30 minutes, and I think no, you've worn out your welcome and then some. Like every minute that you spend past 30 minutes, it's like it's like 5 extra minutes that you've actually taken. So screw you, stop it. Okay. Now, what do I want them to talk about? Now, here's where I think a lot of people are going to hate it, but I think it is also good and necessary if they do this. I want to see, and I'm not exaggerating, 45 minutes on VR. Or, well, mixed reality, VR, whatever.
Yeah, I forgot that was happening, so I will add that to my wish list as well. I want to see that Android XR thing. I want to see what their plans are for actual hardware, because we don't have really any info about that yet. And I need also one of those hardware things, as previously stated, to be a thing that competes with the Quest. Yes. Do not go up there and show me a Vision Pro ass looking thing that costs $2,000. Show me the $500 one. Yes. Please, and thank you.
And here's the thing: anyone who's going, man, I know about VR and AR and mixed reality. I don't want to see 45 minutes on this. Here's the reason I want 45 minutes. And honestly, extend it to 60. The longer they can make it, the more into this I am. Now, here's the thing. I don't even care that much about it, but here's why I want them to spend that much time on it. Because if any amount of time they spend under 45 minutes means that they didn't have enough to fill 45 minutes. And that's a problem. If they can't fill that time, if they can't produce enough things to say, it means that they haven't built enough to do that. And that's a problem. Because when they launch this, they have to, must. It is not a question. It's not a maybe. They absolutely must launch this with some kind of, dare I say, killer app. I hate that term, but you get the point. It needs to have good Google Maps integration. It needs to have a good, let's say, experience with messaging coming across your phone. It needs to have let's just say some actual cool things that Google can do with search and whatever this headset is. It needs to have a gaming story. And by the way, if they don't talk about gaming in this, I'm going to see that as concerning, but hopefully maybe they would have more to say on that later. But Apple already demonstrated if you don't have games on it, no one gives a flying monkey screw.
Go up there, show them running normal Android apps, which the Vision Pro can't do. Show the $500 one, and have someone playing Beat Saber. You've won. You've won the game. That's all you need to do.
Yeah,
I think Meta owns the Beat Saber studio, so I don't actually think that specific one is all that likely. But there's other things you can show it, something like that.
Yeah, and get up there and show us proof that this is a thing that can take on Meta. Maybe not head to head, but at least look. Be realistic. This is first generation. It's probably not going to take on the Quest truly head to head out of the gate. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. Who knows? We'll see. But prove that it can. Prove that in 2 or 3 years of development, these things are going to be on equal ground, if not surpassing the Quest. Because right now, I wouldn't be able to say that about the Vision Pro. The Vision Pro demonstrated it doesn't have games. That was a bad demonstration, because that's what most people wanted. Show us that you can do it all. Show us that you have a product that's going to be worth getting, and then people will be interested. Developers will be interested. And don't just put out something that developers will say, oh, it's interesting, but I don't think it's going to do well. Put out something that customers can look at and go, oh, that looks tight. I want that. And that way the developers can see the customers going, ooh, I want that. And then the developers are like, you know what? Oh, okay, yeah, no. I see they're interested. Now I'm interested. I can make money when people are interested in the thing. That's what you have to do. And if they get up there and show us, God, imagine they get up there and do just 20 minutes on this. They show off the hardware and talk about, oh, we stuck in a tensor chip because we think AI is going to be really neat for this. And, we've got the dual lens thing, and it covers this much brightness and you can see through it. And, oh, here it is running Android apps. Even if they get that up to 30 minutes, which the way they stretch, sometimes they could. I'm gonna see that and go, all right, cool. Well, they gave up. They screwed the pooch. This is not a real product. Forget it happened. They may as well not even announced it if that's what they announced. They have to get up there 100%. They have to get up there and show us a thing that, again, doesn't have to win the market on day one, but it has to be able to show that they're actually in it to fight. And also, I've said this before, but Google and Samsung really just need to put out a first headset that they're willing to lose money on. And I mean, like, lose money on it in the sense of like put it out and get a lot of people to buy it. And if they're losing money on it, that's a win, because they will, if they can gain market share, that's what they need to do. They need to gain market share quick and effectively. So yes, just subsidize the damn headsets. It's worth it. Go ahead.
So now that we've said all the things they should do, they're definitely just going to talk about AI for an hour.
Yep.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun thinking about like what companies could do if they weren't stupid. And I'm super smart and I know better.
But we are super smart and we do know better.
That's true. That's why they should hire me.
And I obviously I'm being facetious as I say that, but I'm going to take a moment and actually justify the crazy thing I just said by pointing out Microsoft is a company famous, literally famous, for being totally and completely blind. I forget what term was used, but Microsoft famously lived in this bubble where all the developers, all the project managers, certainly all the people at the top, all thought Microsoft was doing the best, most amazing things. And they were literally unaware of competing products in many instances. And even when they did know about them, they just assumed that those products weren't really gaining market share or gaining attention. And then one day they started realizing, oh, hey, we put out products that are failing. Why are these failing? Why is the Zoom not just absolutely blowing everyone out of the water? Wait, hold on. We put out Windows Phone. This is obviously great. Why don't people want it? And, oh man, so many other things. Windows. People got sick of Windows. I was a dedicated hardcore Windows developer for a lot of years, and I left behind a thing that was making me pretty good money because I hated Windows. That's not a thing that should be happening. And I'll tell you, Microsoft was one of these pristine examples of a company that just completely lost its viewpoint. And I mean, come on. We've absolutely seen that Google can do that. Need I just point out the obvious? Stadia. And Apple has kind of done that several times too. Again, we could point out the Vision Pro as a pretty cheap example, but I would also argue Apple, anyone who thinks that Apple knows what customers are saying about it, all you need to do is look at their Magic Mouse and realize, yeah, they clearly still have blind spots. Because there's no way anyone's looking at the Magic Mouse and thinking that's not a comically stupid product. So, I could keep banging on about this, but Google hired Dieter. Let's go right back to that point. They hired someone who used to spend all their time looking at Google from the outside and talking about it. And I feel like the reason they had to hire him was because people on the inside had gone blind to what the outside was really like. People had gone blind to how the outside perceives their apps, their software, the search experience, the hardware experience. They did not realize anymore what it was like because they had so much confirmation bias from within. They had to go to ask someone outside. And obviously, yes, they do that in many other ways. They have surveys that they send out to people. They ask them through various, like outreach programs and a lot of other stuff. So they do get outside perspectives, but they don't get everything. There was this one time, I was actually at Google I/O several years ago, and I won't name the Googler for his protection, but there was a Googler who I stumbled
It was
across.
Sundar.
No. No. I would name Sundar, believe me. Um but this is and I will say that this is a guy who has a public image on the outside of or through Google. Like, people know who he is. But I did not, and I feel bad about this, I didn't recognize him when I ran into him. But we just started talking about cameras, and that transitioned into a few other things, and he knew who I was, and he commented that one of the things he liked, or that he read my teardowns, and he read my articles about stuff, because one, I covered a lot of stuff he didn't even know Google was doing. So he'd read a teardown and go, oh, hey, I didn't know this app even was working on things like this. That's very cool. And, kind of on the side, he also mentioned, it's nice having an insight of what people think about this. It obviously, you're writing about it all the time, so you're a bit different than the average person, but you still have an insight that's different from what every other Googler has. And
right.
Yeah,
I mean, like, this is definitely just like a tunnel vision thing, where like you're working every day with the people who are also like very focused on one thing, and you just forget about what else is happening.
Yeah.
I definitely do that with a lot of things.
So that being said, yes, Google is absolutely stupid, and they should hire us.
Yeah, I mean, they should
I have now actually argued that as a legitimate case.
I know it's hip with the kids.
Yes,
for sure. And it's not talking about Gemini for an hour and a half. Please don't make me look at that again. Although maybe I will look at it again for content. I don't know. Yeah. I'll think about it. I'm already almost through my DCEU binge, so I'm now used to garbage that is 2 hours or more. So I've mentally prepared myself.
Yeah, but you're still not. You're still not ready to go for the 6-hour Snyder cut.
The Snyder cut of Google I/O. It's just normal Google I/O, but I put a black and white filter on it and crop it to IMAX aspect ratio.
Also, slow it down. Just put it at like 0.9 speed.
Yeah, that'd be funny. That'd be a fun edit.
And it also gets intercut with like all of the stuff that happens on screens before they start streaming. You take that and just weave that into the entire thing, so you have these weird little breaks for no reason.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the Snyder cut, so I don't know if this is how it was, but let's just pretend
it is like a lot of it is like slow motion stuff, so that part is definitely real. Okay, so last thing is Overwatch news. Overwatch had their stream earlier today where they talked about a lot of stuff that's coming to the game. I watched it like half paying attention because I was working at the time. So basically just talked about like some new heroes coming to the game. One of them has like a bow staff kind of guy, and I think that would be one I would try to play. There was another one they showed off that had like a crossbow. They were talking about like how this one is like definitely one of the more skilled heroes. I'm like, I'm not playing that. they're every time they add a hero that requires aiming, it is discriminatory towards me. The bow staff guy looks like someone who I could probably play. So looking forward to that one.
Oh, okay.
And they also showed off some maps.
Really quickly, I want to preface this. We're not going to spend a lot of time talking about this. It's just we both play it, and I have a couple of specific comments that I want to get to, but I'll get to those in a bit. But yeah, quickly about the heroes. The one with the crossbow, which I have concept art on screen now. Her name is Freya, and yes, she's basically kind of like a cross between Sniper and Kind of, well, basically another Hanzo, kind of, but a little bit more sniper oriented. And yes, they said the skill ceiling on playing her was really high, which, yeah, it definitely is. I watched somebody play her in pre-release, or a pro gamer playing her, and yeah, it was interesting to watch, but not an easy hero to play. So yeah, zero chance I will be playing her, especially because high aim, like precision, that's just terrible on controllers. So until I have a PC to play on, I won't be messing with this hero at all. The other one was, it does not have a name yet, but he's been codenamed Hero 44. And let's see, does this page have the concept art? I don't know if it does, but yeah, they really said nothing about him except to just kind of talk about the inspiration for his look and a little bit of that. They didn't say if he was support, DPS. I'm fairly confident not a tank. Though that would be really interesting if he were. And really, so I guess there isn't. Nope. Okay. Unless it's on a later page, maybe. Anyway, so yeah, that part looks pretty good. Maybe I'm assuming he'll be a support, just because it seems like we could use a couple more. They did mention you were about to go to maps, I think.
Yeah, they showed off, I think, 2 new maps. There was a
new Tokyo map, which
right.
they didn't say really anything about, and then I forget what the name of the other one was, but it was kind of like an Atlantis inspired sort of thing, but it like futuristic Atlantis.
Yeah, like a cruise ship, sort of like built on the sea kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, it kind of had that look to it, and I didn't see it when I was skimming over these shots earlier. So, but it is. I wonder actually what is on the. Oh, that okay. That's not it. It doesn't matter. Anyway, yeah. So new maps. That stuff. Oh, and of course, new cosmetics, new skins, new whatever. Which, yeah, okay. That stuff all look good. On that note, they are bringing back loot boxes, which, there are mixed opinions on this. I never played Overwatch during the loot box phase, so I don't have any personal experience with it, but I remember hearing a lot of people were pretty unhappy with it. Meanwhile, other people apparently really like the idea. As far as I can tell, the good thing about loot boxes is it can allow you to get stuff that's otherwise you would have had to basically spend money to get, and you could now get kind of for free. On the other hand, it just feels like it's probably going to be a whole lot of, oh, hey, look, I got a thing that I already had, and it's just going to give me more Overwatch coins. Or not coins.
Yeah, I mean, it's just gambling.
Yeah,
it's just gambling, so hard to, I think, argue in favor of that.
Yeah.
Because at least with, like, you know, people don't like the season passing, but they keep buying them. People don't like the season passing, but those are pretty transparent about what you get and don't get based on if you're spending money or not.
Yeah, there's zero question about what it is you're going to get out of a season pass.
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't really care for that, but I also, like, don't really spend any money in Overwatch. I think I got like a bunch of Overwatch bucks as like a present like 5 years ago, and I think I still have a couple of those left because I just ended up buying like, I think I got one season pass when they added a new hero. I forget which one it was.
Probably
and then I got
Malga.
Yeah, I think it might have been Malga.
Malga
and then
was the
I got
last
like
one that you had to get. You had to either play levels to unlock or pay to unlock early.
Yeah. and I think I got like some skins, but none of those were battle pass or the skins were not like battle pass or loot box. Those were always like, oh, this is at the store, and I click buy. So yeah, that part's kind of silly. The
So
the kind of main thing they showed off is the new stadium mode, which is so the Verge just says the new gameplay mode is a best of 7 romp between 2 teams of 5 that's akin to Counter-Strike, Go, or Valorant. You'll earn currency each round with rotating maps and objectives alternating between control, clash, and push, which is the payload one. And you get the currency, and it allows you to unlock upgrades for your hero, and you can also optionally switch between first person or third person mode. So this is kind of the I think they said it's like the biggest change since Overwatch 1. I think I'd probably believe that. Maybe on the same tier as them, like switching from 6v6 to 5v5, at least. I will say I'm interested in this, but I'm not 100% sold on this exact implementation yet. So one thing I did really like with Team Fortress 2 is that it had a mode called Man versus Machine, and it was player versus like waves of bots. So it wasn't exactly this, which is PvP. But that mode did have a thing where it was multiple rounds on the same map. But then you could, you'd get currency based on how many bots you killed, and you use that to purchase upgrades. And there was a little bit of strategy there where like you could refund your points if you switched a character. But Austin's tired of going to bed. Okay, bye, Austin.
take it easy, Austin.
And there's a little bit of strategy where you could refund the points you spent on a certain character, but it wouldn't be as much, so you were kind of incentivized to pick one thing and stick with it. I'm not sure if they're doing a similar thing here, but I thought that mode was pretty fun. Definitely the most fun in Team Fortress 2 in its later years, when the actual PvP got infested with like bots and people cheating. So like something like that would be cool to have in Overwatch. I don't know yet what the exact details will be of how they're implementing this, and it is also different in that it is still player versus player. So still not quite what I want. I just kind of want them to put like that kind of mode in there permanently. But yeah, seems interesting, but I'll have to play it.
Okay, so I'm gonna be a little less detail specific about this, in part because just to keep it a little faster. But so the big thing that I see them really adding is that they're completely changing even the core game with the addition of a feature called perks. So as you get when you get your ult, you also get to activate first a minor perk, which when you see what the list is, some of these are anything but minor. And then the second time that you get up to an ult, then you can activate your major perk. And I mean, this is completely reshaping how characters play. It changes the priority for a lot of the heroes. So where previously you might have wanted to be, let's say, a little stationary and a little bit more plotting with how you played certain heroes, now you might want to farm ult a little faster, which I dare say is also going to really change like which heroes some people want to play, and also fortunately will probably really incentivize people to heal if they're supports, because that's one of the fastest ways to build ult. But this also is going to fix one of the biggest complaints people have had about Overwatch, which has led to them calling it Counterwatch, where people are switching heroes specifically to counter what the players on the other team are playing. Because, as it turns out, you actually, like, once you get a perk, if you swap to a different hero, the perk stays with the previous hero. And if you swap back to them, you get it back, but you don't get new perk, or you don't get to the same progress with the new hero. So yeah, it's gonna stop people, or at least discourage people from just swapping between 5, 6, 7 different heroes throughout a match. So it is looking like a more interesting way to play. It is changing a lot about the game pretty quickly. I am worried that they're gonna maybe make a lot of broken combos out of this. In fact, I'm confident there are going to be some broken combos coming from this. It's very clear a few things may not have good balance.
Yeah, I mean, this sounds like an absolute nightmare to play test. Like, even if you have data from a lot of people at once, it's like, great, you now have like 50 or something characters in the game, plus every conceivable common. Like, we're getting to the point this is like developing software for Windows. It's getting really bad.
Yeah, kind of. And knowing how people are going to put some of this stuff to use, and especially just, again, finding combos between two heroes, could be absolute madness. There's so many possible ways to play this out and abuse the system. That being said, I also want to give them big credit on one very significant thing. People were complaining that the game had become stale. And with what they just announced, anyone making that complaint is probably either lying to themselves or, wow, their expectations are off the charts. I don't know what, but that's the thing. This is a game that has obviously changed a lot over the years, but for the last several years, it has been mostly the same game, with like balance patches, a few new heroes, a few new maps, but it's the same game. Now, it's not. Like, and obviously this is dependent on when it launches, but yeah, this is going to be stuff that nobody sees coming. And as far as I understand, it's even going into the competitive circuit right away, or very shortly after launch. I'm not sure which. I think it's right away. So even at the pro level, they're going to be figuring this stuff out in real time, which is going to be wild to watch, at least for anyone who does watch that. And again, it's also keeping the game interesting. Some of this, I'm sure, I suspect, is being maybe a little rushed along to respond to Marvel Rivals, which has also been reportedly stealing people away from Overwatch. I think that might be a little over reported, but there is a competitor, and it's encouraging the developers to actually respond to it, which brings back the classic saying, competition is good for consumers. We like seeing competition because it makes them try. It makes people want their products to be better so that they can actually win, or at least compete more effectively. They don't have to just sit back and hope that their thing just keeps drawing in money, which is, again, a thing that Overwatch has been criticized for. And to bring this back to tech for a moment, it's something Google has been criticized for, and Microsoft has very visibly done. When you let your products stagnate, i.e. 5, anyone, they eventually leave the users in a worse state than if well, I don't know. I don't have... If your product just died, users would be better off than if it just sat there and stagnated, and that's all they had for years. So, yes, please, let's... I like to see things change and improve. Granted, there are definitely going to be some stumbles. I think Overwatch developers might be biting off a little more than they can chew with how much they just promised, but we'll see. it could go horribly, it could go great.
David said, yeah, Fortnite #2. Yeah, I mean, most of it seemed good. I will say, like, I I don't know if it's like sustainable to like keep adding and constantly rebalancing characters to this game, but I do kind of see, like, I guess they have to, because like the new characters and specifically the skins for those characters is like kind of the main drive for a lot of people to this game. So like I get that, I guess they have to, but I would, if it was entirely up to me, which of course it wouldn't be, I would choose every day of the week, give me a new map versus a new character. But I understand this is how this works, so and they're doing both, so I'm not going to complain too much. Also not going to complain because I bought this game like 6 years ago and have not really paid for a lot more content since then, so I'm fine. I'm good. This is maybe the most like hours per dollar spent of entertainment of anything I've purchased in my life.
You know, that's probably fair. I've spent technically no money on Overwatch. All I've spent is some Bing points in order to get a few credits for battle passes here and there. But yeah, outside of that, yeah, I've given them no money. But hey, they have made money off of my playing, so that counts.
Right.
That being said, you know, I think they're doing a good job of keeping it interesting. I'm not really a skin collector per se, which, wow, those words are creepy when you say them. But yeah, the cosmetics are neat. You know, sometimes I think they look good, but I also just don't care that much about having like the latest, hottest, new look for a hero. That being said, you know, I know that there are people out there, especially some Twitch streamers, they buy literally everything that hits in the store. So, you know, they'll do their thing because that's what they do. And please, to those people, by the way, please keep it up. You're paying so I can play this game. You're awesome. Mm-hmm. I like you. You're awesome. Which, you know, I would say the same to Fortnite players who buy all the cosmetics. Like, please keep it up. You're subsidizing other people getting to play the game for free. I commend you. Maybe be less of a D-bag about it, but that's a separate subject.
Yeah. David said, did you talk mad S about the loot boxes returning? Yeah, I said it was gambling.
Yeah. And you know, I'm a little bit down the middle on this. I think it's possibly a good thing. I think it's possibly a bad thing. It does depend on how it's implemented. It sounds like you'll be able to probably get 1 or 2 a week just through challenges. Plus they are going to have some in the battle passes, and in the free path on the battle passes is what they said. So though, I don't know, maybe there are some in the paid portion too. So, you know, we don't know how that's actually going to play out. Like, what happens if you get duplicates, or can you get duplicates? We don't know if you'll be able to buy loot boxes at all. Because, you know, all these do factor in. If it's just sort of like a random reward, which takes some of the sort of static nature of the battle pass and turns it into, oh hey, you're gonna get some loot boxes with this, and maybe you'll get a skin you don't care about, maybe you'll get something super awesome that you really want. If that's what it is, great. Okay, I don't care if they randomize it a little bit. That's fine, as long as the things that you're going for are in there and you want to go for those things. Cheers. So I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily. I'm just not sure if it's a good thing either. we'll see.
Yeah. So I'll play it, see how it goes. I have one breaking news thing that's very quick, and then I think we can go.
All right.
I'll put this in the YouTube chat. Google published a blog post, I believe 40 minutes, or The Verge covered it 40 minutes ago, that says that YouTube TV might lose Paramount. So they said, we've been working hard to reach a fair agreement with Paramount that allows us to keep their channels, including CBS and CBS Sports, on YouTube TV without passing on additional costs to our subscribers. Unfortunately, despite our good faith negotiations, we haven't been successful yet. So it sounds like this contract ends on February 13th, which is tomorrow. So after tomorrow, I'm guessing around midnight, if they haven't sorted it out, YouTube TV loses everything Paramount owns, which is, they mention, they just say including CBS and CBS Sports, but I think they own more channels than that. They also mention recordings from Paramount Plus with Showtime and BET. So I don't know if the Showtime and BET are channels on their own in YouTube TV.
Oh, it's so weird and complicated. If you subscribe to Paramount Plus, so you can have just a Paramount Plus subscription, or you can subscribe to Paramount Plus with Showtime. And I think there's a BET Plus that's on its own, but it's owned by Paramount. I'm not clear on that one, but I know the thing with Showtime, I think you can't get that without Paramount Plus. Like, I think they just worked out a deal so that that's always kind of a stream with arrangement. Whatever it is, they screwed up.
Okay, so I looked up list of Paramount channels as a Wikipedia article. There's a lot of things here. But in the US, it looks like it's mostly like MTV, CMT, Comedy Central, Paramount Network, TV Land. Oh, Nickelodeon, right. They own Nickelodeon stuff. That's unfortunate.
A bad look.
And also Showtime and CBS, Dabble, BET, and the CW. They partially own, so I don't know if that counts, but maybe. So if I scroll through the list of YouTube TV channels, I see CBS.
I like what David said, and I agree. Those channels meant something years ago, man.
Yeah.
I remember watching tons of like Comedy Central. I remember at one point watching MTV. I remember several of those channels being at least interesting in their time. Not now.
I mean, even a long time ago. Like I remember when I signed up for CBS All Access so I could watch and then be then later disappointed by Star Trek Discovery. And I was like, is there anything else on this app I care about? And this was in like 2017. I was like, no, the answer is no. It's every flavor of CSI show you could ever want. Okay, yeah, I see Dabble in here. Obviously, I think Nick is in here somewhere. Yeah, so there's a couple that are gonna get wiped off. Oh, yeah, there's 3 Nick channels and Paramount Network. Yeah, that's unfortunate. So yeah, hopefully they figure it out, but maybe not. David said, "Hell yeah, back to cable BS." Yeah, we never left. It's always cable.
Yeah.
This will keep always happen as long as the company distributing the channels and the company making the channels are not the same company. This is just how it always has to work. Everything becomes cable. This is, again, just like everything becomes crab in nature. Everything becomes cable.
And to some extent, this is how it should work. obviously, that sucks to say, but we do want them to be negotiating deals and trying to sort of win over on the other one, because that can keep prices down. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean it's either a group thing where things can come and go occasionally, a bundle, or it's you're paying individually and all together that will be a lot more expensive. These are the only two models that can exist under capitalism.
Yeah.
Like and like they'll take different forms. Like maybe sometimes the bundle is a DirecTV plan, and sometimes the bundle is the thing your carrier gave you. But like they're all the same concept. They work the same economically. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I've never been a paying for TV person ever since I moved out. I just have the TV antenna that I turn on occasionally, and then I pay for like a streaming service or two most of the time. But my impression is that people are just kind of really unhappy with YouTube TV specifically, because it has gone up a lot in price, and it doesn't seem like it's expanded, to the size where that would be acceptable. I see people complain about YouTube TV a lot, but that might just be because it's really popular. I don't know. But I feel like I don't hear about like Sling as much as I do YouTube.
Probably not, no. But I think also I don't know if this is still true, but at one point YouTube TV had substantially more users than Sling. And so for that reason alone, I could see maybe Sling just not having enough people to complain about it.
Yeah. So yeah, good times. Hopefully they figure that out.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat as you. I don't really have any stake in this game. I don't particularly care about the outcome, but at the same time, for anyone who is a YouTube TV subscriber, I certainly wish them the best. And I'll raise the classic question, which I call it a question, but I think we all know the answer. Would YouTube TV prices go down if they lose all this stuff? And we know the answer is no.
I think they did say that, like, on the last time this happened, was like, if this is extended, then we'll lower it by a couple bucks. I might be making that up. But in this one, they do say if we can't reach an agreement and their content is unavailable for an extended period of time, don't know what that means, we'll offer subscribers an $8 credit.
Oh, okay.
So that's something.
It's something.
Something that like DirecTV or whoever would definitely not do unless you called and like probably was mean to the customer service person, which you shouldn't do.
Yes.
Please don't do that. Actually, they might give it to you if you're not mean to them. That is a successful strat sometimes. Is if you have an issue and you're not mean to customer service person, they'll be like, "Thank you so much. Here's a credit."
Yeah. Well.
Always be nice to the customer service people in general, even if you don't get anything out of it. Just don't do that.
Unless they are powered by AI. In which
That's
case,
true. Then yeah.
The meaner you are, the more likely you are to actually get kicked to a real human.
Right.
So actually, if you figure out that they're AI, if they're robots, call AVR systems, anything like that, be the biggest jerk you can be. Also, if they work for collection agencies, just be a jerk anyway. Because look, there are some lines it's allowed to cross.
Right. The AI doesn't have feelings. It won't be hurt.
Neither do collection agents.
Right.
All right. Anyway, now that we've told you to be bad people at times, I think that's probably a good place to end it.
Yep.
All right. So, well, let's see. Corbin, anything you'd like to plug, pitch, or mention?
Nope.
Good. Me neither. All right. No. So as usual, I'll be back this weekend with some game streams, Overwatch, Marvel Rivals, who knows what else. And a RambleCast next week on Wednesday, like usual. And if you'd like to support the channel, there are links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. Of course, big thanks to supporters of the channel, Austin, Carson, David, Diablo, and Kirby Mermaid. Y'all are awesome. That's as much as I have to say. So I hope you all have an excellent rest of your week and a good weekend coming up. And we'll catch you in the next one. Good night, everybody.
Bye.